What is up, Retro Maniacs? Welcome to the Retro Card Chat Podcast. My name is Mike, and I am from Mike's Retro Trading Cards, and I'm joined by two men today that they may not be rich, they may not be pretty, but I guarantee you, regardless of what the script says, they know Bo Bichette does not play for the Dodgers. They are Joe Day and EP Eric Kahalik. How you doing, guys?
Great. Well, I gotta tell you, Mike, that little sprained ankle I had on vacation turned out I broke my foot. So I'm having surgery on Wednesday. So if this is my last podcast, I want to tell the viewers, the tens and tens of you out there, I love you. And also, Pitt, 21-point favorites last night, lost to Georgia Tech. So it's been a day. It may be 10:30 in the morning. Joe Day needs a beer. I'm cracking one open. Don't worry. It's a coffee stout. It's kind of like drinking a coffee. I'm good. Whatever.
Yeah,
so to answer your earlier question, EP, yes, I do have a beer for the podcast.
It's practically a breakfast beer anyway. If it's coffee stout,
it's a breakfast beer. Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah, definitely.
It's fine.
Dante Bichette, great. Dante Bichette, who played in the 90s, one of our guys. He named his son Bo Bichette after Bo Jackson.
Wow, that's a fun fact. I didn't know EP was going to be dropping the knowledge on us today.
The more you know.
You guys did see the Sports Card Investor video with Bo Bichette.
I didn't, but I heard about it.
Right?
Yeah,
I heard about it. Yeah. I try to avoid those videos, but I did hear about it.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I mean, said he was just reading off the script. I kind of have a feeling, though, like that excuse was a little bit weird because, didn't you write the script? Like,
right.
Like if somebody wrote it wrong, unless you're not writing it yourself, like you got it wrong at the beginning. So whatever. But we're not here to talk about that. Got a lot to get to this week. So why don't we get right to it? We all watched the football game. Scary moment Thursday night when Tua went down with another concussion and like his fingers.
Whoa, another one?
Directions. Yeah.
I thought it was his first.
Well, no, it is his first, I guess. My bad there. But yeah, I mean, we're not here to talk, unfortunately, about that specific situation. You can go pretty much anywhere on the internet and find that discussion if you want to have it. But I want to talk to it about how it relates to collectors and card values and what's such and so forth. I want to talk a little bit about collectors' reactions to stuff like this when it happens, the things that they're not afraid to say on social media when they see an injury like this happen. I know, Joe, this is something you really want to talk about, so I will hand the ball over to you and have at it.
Yeah, this is one of those topics that, I was just on Twitter the night of the game, and I classify it this way. There are three types of people, okay? There are actual good people. There are some out there. I swear I've seen them. Then there are people who are brutally honest and will say whatever's on their mind whenever they think it. There are a lot of people like that, myself included. I wouldn't consider us bad. I would just consider us, kind of honest to a fault. And then there's the third group of people, which is actually the ones I hate. It's the ones who pretend they're good people, but they're thinking the things that other people are willing to say. And those are the ones that really set me off on this whole topic. There was someone who posted about how this would affect Tua's card values. Now, maybe it was in poor taste, maybe it was in bad timing. Okay. But then people start jumping on him who for a fact don't care about Tua as a human. They care about the money they have invested in Tua cards. You scroll through their timeline and you see these high dollar Tua cards that they've posted pictures of from their collection. And they're talking, oh, I can't believe. So look at this disgusting human posting these things about Tua's injury. That's terrible. You don't give a shit about Tua's injury. The only reason you care about Tua's injury is because how it affects your collection. And I see it in fantasy football. We all play fantasy football, some better than others. No offense, CP. And you see people who have players on their fantasy teams and they react the same way. Oh, I can't believe you would talk about someone's injury like that. yeah, if it affects you in a personal way, of course you're going to snap back at someone, but you're thinking the same exact thing that person is thinking that posted it, again, maybe in bad taste, maybe in poor timing, but you're thinking the exact same thing that they are. You just don't have the cojones to admit it and post it yourself. And you're going to throw them under the bus to make yourself look better. That's the stuff that pisses me off. I'm going to take a little sip of my beer.
EP? Well, I mean, I didn't. I was at work, so I didn't see the game, and you guys were texting about it, and so I watched the video. There's a YouTube clip immediately on there, and I watched it. I was like, oh my god, that's scary stuff. Yeah. I think that was the word you used, I think, Mike. And luckily, I wasn't able to be on Twitter because I was at work to see the stuff. But having been on Twitter, yeah, I mean, you know the kind of stuff you're going to see, and it's the thing that aggravates me about stuff like that. There's people out there who are still hating on Tua from his college days that are like happy about this kind of thing happening. That's not really a collectibles discussion, but card collection discussion.
Those are just bad people.
Yeah.
Those are just generally bad people.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, where's the line drawn though? Like, is there a legitimate discussion to be made by a collector wondering, like, yeah, like I understand, you know, the guys on the field maybe running to social media to ask about it right away. Maybe not the best time to do it. Maybe give it a little bit of time. But like, is it fair to be able to ask those questions? Like, people have a lot of money tied up in football players, you know. It's an investment for some people. Is it fair to ask, like, how is this going to affect it?
Here's my example. Were people nervous about their Apple stock when Steve Jobs died?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge investment. Steve Jobs was the face of Apple. When he died, I'm sure people were freaking out. If Bezos dies and people have Amazon stock, they're going to freak out. These are commodities. They are. I mean, we are collectors for the most part. I would say the vast majority of what we do is collecting. But there is a large segment of the population, arguably the segment of the population that has built up these card prices over the last 2 or 3 years. They have a lot of money invested in these pieces of cardboard with men's faces on them. So it's a question you can ask. Again, maybe the timing wasn't right, but I guarantee you the person I saw that was getting jumped on social media about asking the question, again, not for virtuous reasons he was getting jumped on. He was getting jumped on because of these investors who were very nervous and upset. It's a fair question to ask, and it's something that people are thinking as soon as it happens. As soon as Trey Lance broke his ankle or tore up his ankle, whatever he ended up doing with his ankle, I'm sure people who had invested a ton of money in Trey Lance felt the same exact way. I mean,
oh yeah, you saw it too. Like, it was all over Twitter too. So, like, you know, people didn't seem to jump on the guys asking how
concussions seem to be that third rail.
Yeah,
concussions seem to be that third rail
because it's so close to death. Like,
yeah, well, that was a very scary situation.
Like the bottom line is, like, I see, I know what you're saying, Joe, but for me, like, it was way too soon. Like, you don't, like, that's not something to worry about as the guys.
How much do you have invested in?
I don't care how much you have invested. I don't care about that, man. Like, it's just too way too.
I don't either. I don't either. I don't have. You know, I feel the exact same way as you do, EP. But I will say, people who have a lot of money tied up in this guy are probably when's the right time? An hour later, 2 hours later, the next day, a week later, as these cards are potentially tanking. I don't know. Like, he's the person who posted asking the question did not say anything unfactual. So it's hard for me to push too hard on him when you have people coming from the other side of it, making him sound like this terrible person, when the only reason is because, again, they're worried about their investment. I mean, if that was any other player on the field, if it was a linebacker, do you think anyone would, sadly, do you think anyone would care? And let me just say, football is a dangerous game. I know we're not talking about injuries in general. Tua was not forced to play football. He wasn't. A gun was not held to his head. He was not forced to play football. It's a dangerous game. If he didn't want to get a concussion, he could be an accountant. If Trey Lance didn't want to tear up his ankle, he could be a mortgage broker. If Najee Harris didn't want to screw up and break his foot, he could be a government official. Oh, wait, no, that doesn't work. That's me. I broke my foot being a government official. But
not in official capacity, though.
Not in official capacity. No workers' comp claims here. But it's a dangerous game. And I mean, it's hard for me to, I hope he is better. I hope this is not a long-term issue. But again, you kind of know what you're signing up for. If I had kids, I wouldn't want them to play football. Mike, I know your two sons didn't play football.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a dangerous game, and really people have a lot of money invested in this game beyond cards. And is it in poor taste? Is it bad timing? Sure. But again, when's the right time?
I think too, that's a really good point, especially with football cards. If you're collecting and investing, if you're investing in football players, this is a possibility. Like any single snap of the football, they could be done. Like you need, if you're putting $30,000 out for a card of Justin Herbert or $1 million, as we've seen recently,
right,
you need to realize that something could happen to that guy on any play. It might be rare, but it happens to football players. There are a lot of guys that have lost their careers due to like injuries and severe injuries, or a knee injury that re-injures, like you just all,
or you're just not the same after.
Yeah. So like you need to know that before you decide you're going to invest in football, right? I would say more than any other sport, like you have the potential of that happening. Like, yes, any sport, somebody could get hurt, but it happens a lot more often in football. It's a violent sport. They're trying to hit each other as hard as they can a lot of the time. So like, I understand the people that have money in wanting to know how it might affect the value of a card. But at the same time, there's part of me that feels like you already know the answer to that. You decided to buy a card of a guy who plays a position where large dudes are coming at him on every play, and any play could lead to an injury that, yes, injuries affect prices. They do. We all know that. That's common sense. So like, I don't know what people are even wanting people to say though, when they're asking, how's this going to affect his prices? Like, first of all, with Tua specifically, we have no idea because we don't know how long he'll
be
out.
Back next week. Yeah, for all we know.
Knowing the Dolphins, he might be. Yeah, but like that's true though. Like, week. So you don't know when he'll be back. So like nobody knows. But what you do know is you're investing money in a sport and players that could be gone at any minute, and you need to know that before you pull the trigger and put the money in. Like, after the fact isn't the time to worry about it. You need to build that into your decision before you put the money into it.
That's part of my issue with this whole thing, is that person probably knew the answer to his question. He was just trying to start a conversation about it on social media. And that to me is that's the kind of agitating part to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's he expecting people to say? Oh no, his cards will be fine. Like
no. I would just scroll past that. Like, I'm not responding to that at all. Just I'm going to let that.
Yeah.
Don't.
And I fully admit. I mean, what the young man tweeted, and I'm not going to put anyone on blast, right? But what he tweeted was more of a, like, I don't want to say gotcha or whatever, but it was more of a, I don't think Tua's cards are doing too well now, or something to that effect. Mm-hmm. Like that's it's more worse. Like that. Yeah, it is even worse. Yeah. But I'd rather, I'm probably in the minority here. I'd rather see that than fake people jump in and make it sound like they care about Tua. Like, no, you don't. You care about how it affects you. And that's, to me, if I had to pick, that one's grosser. That one to me is way worse, because the original tweet,
they're both pretty gross.
Yeah, they're both really gross.
They are. I will say that the ones who jumped in are ones that the three of us have talked about on the side previously. And I defer to anyone that is battling with them, I guess, because they are just long-term, just D-bags. So, to me, anyone else, I'm kind of fine with. But I get your point, and the concussion thing is the third rail, though, right? Like if people said that about Trey Lance as soon as it happened, would we be having this discussion? We didn't have this discussion at all after Trey Lance got hurt. I mean, I think it's the concussion thing beyond anything else.
And a lot of it, though, is the fact that, football cards, the investors are into it week by week, right? We know this. It's a little crazy. There's one thing to us as longtime collectors, people that have been part of this for a long time. When I got back into this and was like, oh, the guy threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, so his cards are worth 2x what they were on Friday afternoon. Like, that part blew my mind.
Yeah.
So Tua is like the perfect storm in this situation, because a lot of people have money tied up into him. He hadn't really done anything, and then he had a huge game, and his prices shot up. You had that battle of people that were like, fighting about whether or not they should be worth something now. Like, you think he's good because he had one game, or, oh, he's great because he had one game, and now he gets hurt. So I think the previous stuff with Tua and his value shooting up because of the one huge game had a lot to do with all the discussion among card collectors now.
You're right, Mike. It is the perfect storm. It's everything that is crazy about the hobby, right? It's like you have this player who has one great game. He's had a good season, but the one great game really catapulted him. And then so his cards are like this, and then he's got the injury, so people are worried his cards are like this. He comes back and throws 3 touchdowns and 300 yards. His cards will go back up. It really is kind of just, it's jarring almost, is how quickly, we were talking about, this isn't an injury discussion, but there was someone saying, oh, is there any buy better than Jalen Hurts right now? Yeah, lots of people, because Jalen Hurts is having a really good season, so his cards have gone up. You have those players that have those like great starts to a season. No, don't buy them now. Like that's the worst time to buy them. And I think that's what happened with Tua people. They were buying him after this big spike game at a premium. And now it's like, oh crap, he might not be playing for a few weeks, maybe the year. Who knows? You never know how these neurological things can happen. So they're rightfully nervous. At least, maybe they should diversify a little bit, not put this tens of thousands of dollars into one player. I mean, that's the joke with Marvel collectors and comic book collectors is Spider-Man can't tear his ACL, right? That's kind of the line that they use. We'll talk about some of that later, but
he might not need to.
They might not need to.
Yeah.
But that's why I collect Brady cards. I mean, he goes out and he tears his ACL and is out for the season and retires. His cards are still going to have a good amount of value. His cards are set. I feel comfortable with those cards. I could not live the week to week drama that is ultra modern football. It's mind blowing how crazy it can be.
I think what kind of escalates the this Tua thing as well is that he had that big game like 3 weeks ago, and then last weekend, he got hurt with the back injury
in the Bills game. Yeah,
right. So this has been going on for this has been going on for 3 weeks, and there's a lot of contention with the whole concussion, everything going on. So it's kind of been in everybody's
in the media cycle,
right? Yeah, it's been on everybody's timelines, for weeks now. So I think that probably led to more of a discussion.
That game against the Bills. That game against the Bills, didn't it remind you of like old school 90s football where they were like, "Oh, he has a neck injury." Okay, no, he doesn't. He has a concussion.
Injury. It was a back
injury, whatever. I mean, that's he has a neck sprain, a back spasm. They used to call it all sorts of things. When a man, and I'm not going to bring politics into it, whether, whatever side you're on issues, but it reminded me of Biden trying to go up the steps on Air Force One and he kept stumbling. That's what Tua looked like. And Biden blamed the wind. Tua probably should blame a concussion because that's what happened. Anyone who doesn't think so is just is crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to another subject here. We talk about Panini every now and then on here. We've talked about changes they've made to their redemption policy before. They, a little while back, they decided that anything that was still outstanding that was older than, 2 years or something, they were going to replace. Well, I signed into the Panini app the other day and I noticed they had new terms of service you had to agree to. And I'll admit it, I knew there was stuff in there that I wasn't going to like, but I tried to read it and I got bored about halfway through. I did go about halfway through because, since we do this, buddy. I was like, okay, they're up to something because they only change their terms when you sign into the app when they're pulling something with the redemption.
Right.
And I lost interest about halfway through. So, yeah, I didn't get this on my own, but turns out that a couple things. First point is they're no longer going to give you anything if you put in an expired redemption, which, it has been nice that maybe they would give you something, they give you points or whatever if you put an expired redemption in, but they are expired. So like, how can you can't really hammer them for doing that.
Right.
Like, seems normal, whether or not they are trying to tie up all the loose ends before a sale, I don't know. But like, I don't think collectors should really be mad about not doing anything for an expired redemption.
No, them doing that would be a goodwill gesture.
Yeah,
more so than
I will say for those, the biggest culprit of getting expired redemptions are when people buy into breaks that have old product in. Like at that point, maybe the breaker should be responsible of giving them something or whatever. But yeah, I see that a lot during some of those breaks where it's like a bunch of products from, say, 2016, and they're like, "Oh, you got a DAC Auto." Oh no, you didn't. It's expired.
Yeah. Well, that's the risk you take if you buy into those.
It is.
Yep. The biggest problem with having redemptions in your product too. Like, I found recently in my stuff, I found a WWF Superstars autograph redemption, which you could have gotten The Rock. Why in the world I never sent that in? Like,
why would you not have sent that in, man?
I have no idea. Like, there were maybe 10 different wrestlers that you could get. 1999. It was that first.
Oh wow!
That's like set. When you would have been like sending stuff.
I honestly don't know why I never sent it. Like, I never remembered having it. It wasn't even in with my cards. I had it in, like, I had some wrestling figures and other stuff in a box.
That's crazy.
And there it was, and it was all mangled up. And I was like, wow, that could have been The Rock. But yeah, I would have sold it by now anyway, so it really doesn't make a big deal. But yeah, you buy into a break of stuff that's
it's a risk
older, so you really need to just do your research a little bit and spend your money a little more wisely. Okay, the big news though in the Panini redemption policy is now if you put in your redemption card, you put it in there. If 6 months go by and the athlete has not signed, they can now replace your autograph with whatever they deem is autograph or whatnot of equal value in their discretion.
Well, they're good at that, so
they are good at that. And let me also say, not only that, they can substitute 2 or more autographs to make up for
God.
That's not good at all.
Oh God.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, you could get 5
Tom
$20,
Savage. Tom Savage autographs, baby.
The Tom Savages are making a comeback. They're finally going to be able to get rid of them, aren't they? Yeah, I mean,
well, this sucker Joe Day bought one,
and I believe it's 6 months from the release of the product. So, I mean, I have a Paul Heyman redemption that I've been waiting for since April. I mean, we're right at that point now. It's going to be the end of this month. Like, they might send me something else. I might get some Tom Savages coming my way by the end of the month. But yeah, wow.
Take. I claim all of them. Ooh, that is brutal. That's rough. I'll tell you what. I would rather just get the Panini points at that point. Like, that is bad. That is really bad, because to me, this is just them preparing for a sale, right? like there's no other way, right? It has to be like they're just trying to clear out stuff. They don't want to overpromise anything, and they want to make sure that their inventory is just completely empty before they end up making a sale. And maybe even Fanatics said, you need to get rid of all you need to clear out all of these backlogs of redemptions before we'll buy you, or deal with it some way. I mean, there's got to be something beyond what's going on, just the normal redemption exchange here. There's got to be something beyond that. Right, Bailey?
I saw Bailey looking at us.
They did what?
Bailey was very upset about these redemptions.
I'm guessing most people got bored with this reading the agreement as well, because how are we not seeing more about this on social media and stuff? Like, this is like, I haven't seen anything about this. Like, this is wild. Like, this is crazy.
This is going to be a lot of.
I know it did take a couple days, but like I said, when I signed in, I saw they changed it. I knew they were changing something, and I looked for it. I just I admittedly just did not want to put the amount of time in. I knew I had to click it anyway. What am I going to do? So, I mean, I have 2 redemptions outstanding. One I already requested a replacement for. It was a Ramondre Stevenson. But now I requested a replacement months ago and have gotten nothing. So
did you get your Elijah Moore? Did you have an Elijah
I just got that this week. Elijah Moore came in this week, but the Paul Heyman is really the only one I care about. But I'm not really liking my chances of getting that.
Paulie Dangerously did retweet your collection of his. Maybe you can say, hey, Paul, I've been waiting on this redemption.
Sign your cards, man.
Can you sign
one?
Your cards?
Just sign one for me.
Just sign
Tell
the one
Panini,
that I got.
This is for that Mike's Retro Trading Cards guy.
You have the in, man. You have the in.
I might have to give him a call.
Do you know what this? Do you know what this reminds me of? It's like when you're in fantasy football and you have the best player and someone offers you 5 crap players for the best.
That's exactly.
You're getting so many players.
Yes. That's exactly how I view this. Yeah, everything was in terms of fantasy football.
You're getting Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, Rondale Moore. You're getting those guys. I just want Cooper Kupp. What's the big deal?
But now Panini can say that these guys are worth Cooper Kupp, and you're taking the deal. You have nothing to do about it.
Yeah, you have no choice. You're taking that deal.
Yeah, and again, they're so good about determining value compared to what the card should be. We've talked about that in a previous podcast.
I do believe there was something in there too, that if you don't agree to it, then you just lose the rights to the redemption you put in.
So give me 5 Tom Savages instead of my Justin Herbert or
or nothing. Give me
nothing.
One or the other. They're your options. Whatever you want to give me or nothing is what Panini is now going to give you.
We have so many cards. The 3 of us. You look at EP in the background there. He'd probably take the nothing. I think at this point over some of the stuff.
It might not be a bad idea. Yeah.
Can I have the Panini points instead, please? As I hate Panini points. Can I have the points instead?
I mean, it goes to the age-old question: could you really lose anything that you never had in the first place? So,
That's true.
I didn't have it, so I never really didn't get it because I never had it.
If a Panini redemption falls in the woods and no one is there to hear it, does it really get redeemed? I mean,
then it's Tom Savage.
They're definitely not redeeming that. Yeah. No, they're not even giving Tom Savage. Poor Tom Savage. He hasn't been mentioned this much in a podcast in his life.
Since the last time we mentioned him in a podcast.
I know. We really need to get him on the pod and talk about those cards he signed. How many did you sign? So yeah, well, we're going to move on to some more really good business this week. Leaf CEO Brian Gray was commenting on social media. He's outspoken, we'll call him, member of the card community. I mean, he has people that love him, people that can't stand him. He's not afraid to speak his mind. Well, I have to read this because I want to get the quote directly, but in talking about Leaf Metal Soccer, which apparently has been selling well below the price it should be, he commented that the consumer doesn't understand the monster value or is too lazy to do the homework. Direct quote from Brian Gray, the CEO of Leaf, in talking about why the 2022 Leaf Metal Soccer is selling at lower prices. His point is that it's loaded with young players who are going to become major stars in the sport, and that the people buying it just aren't smart enough to know about it. I'll just leave it there and let me get your thoughts before I say anything.
Oof.
How does this go ahead?
No, you go, EP.
I was going to just say, how does this hobby attract so many CEOs that are like this, that don't know how to shut up? Like, that's something you might write that, but you don't post that. You don't send that out. Like that's it's a manifesto.
Type it out.
Write the letter, put it in a drawer.
Yep. And have somebody take a look at it, and they're like, no, please don't send that out.
Yeah, don't send that out.
Do you really want to say consumers here?
Yeah,
right.
That's the problem. He said consumers, and he did try to walk it back later, and he was saying that, I wasn't talking about the customers, I was talking about the breakers and stuff that had no knowledge of the product, and the people that were buying this that doesn't know anything about it, that have panicked about it and are dumping.
Then maybe use a few more words.
Yeah, it may be true, but say that. Don't say the consumer doesn't understand the monster value or is too lazy to do the homework. I'm sorry, you're in retail sales. Guess whose job it is to educate the potential consumer? It's yours, Brian Gray. I've been in business my whole life. I will give you my advice. You don't want it, but you're going to get it anyway because it's my podcast. You need to inform the consumer about it. If you think that the customer doesn't understand the monster value, guess what? It's on your company to tell them. If you think they're too lazy to do the homework, guess what? Your company is too lazy. If you have a product that you feel that strongly about, you need to tell people why. You need to tell them this group of young soccer players are going to be huge stars. Get the word out there somehow. Don't expect to throw a product out there and make the consumer go figure it out for themselves. It doesn't work like that. I don't care if you're selling dog food. I don't care if you're selling cards. I don't care if you're selling computers. It doesn't work that way. It's your job as a business person to inform your consumer base, the people that you want to buy your product. You need to give them the information about why they need to buy your product. End rant.
I was praying to God just now that when you said dog food, Bailey perked up, even though she can't hear you guys. But I really wanted her to do that. Yes, Mike, you're completely right. I will say this. I'm curious how many people decided not to buy this product because of PSA not authenticating Pele autographs. Now, I don't know if Pele is in this product, but people are, I agree with Brian Gray. I wouldn't say this if I was a CEO. People are generally stupid. So I'm kind of curious how many people think, well, I don't want to get this product. PSA said these autographs aren't real. I'd be a little, that's the argument Brian Gray should be making, right? Like, guys, even though PSA are assholes and they don't believe us that these Pele autographs are real, They are. I mean, again, I don't know if he's in this specific product, but that can taint a whole line of products if you're telling consumers, as PSA did, we cannot validate or verify these autographs from this product. That's going to bring down the whole enchilada, if you will, of soccer cards for Leaf. If I was just a soccer collector and thought, oh, maybe I'll pick up some of these cards, and then you hear, oh, this other set that had Pele autographs, they won't validate the autographs or verify the autographs. Maybe that hurt the product. I wouldn't shock me one bit if that was the case.
That's a great point, Joe. Like I was gonna mention that too, but like to go back on your business thing, Mike. Like the bottom line is the market, the price is the market value, right? Yeah. And that's what people. I mean, if that's what people are selling it for, that's what it's going to sell for. And then again, it's Brian Gray's job to say, hey, look, this is a great deal. Instead of calling your consumers lazy and calling them, throwing them under the bus, say, oh my God, look at the kind of deal you can get if you buy this product right now. Look at the stuff that's in here. That's the kind of tack he should have taken. That's the approach he should have taken. I mean,
you need to inform them. And like he said that, I guess they cost them $300 a box to make. I don't know how true that is or not, but
it can't be.
Seems a little odd, but still, like if it's that high end of a product, you need to do a little more to get people to know. And one of his things was like the breakers. So many of the breakers didn't even know the names of the athletes. Like, hello, have you watched Breakers? Like, I'm a wrestling guy. When Prism was being broken, how many names do you think that there was one breaker I watched that opened Prism that knew the names, how to pronounce the names of all the people in Prism, the wrestling Prism.
Yeah.
All the others, there were a lot of them that they didn't have any idea how to say it. We've seen it with football, like Timbiaka Batuka.
Timbiaka, damn it, you beat me to it.
Nobody gets Timbiaka Batuka out there.
Right.
So, this is nothing new. But I don't know that is.
That's not enough. No, that's not enough. I will say, they're not paying us to plug them, but that's why I like Leighton, to watch Leighton anyway, because they have specific people who know specific things, right? Mm-hmm. So no one's opening up Pokemon cards who doesn't know about Pokemon.
Yeah.
And a lot of breakers, though, it's just a couple of people. So maybe they're not up on soccer and they don't know what's going on. But again, that can't be enough of a reason. And there is no way that is a $300 to make, a $300 box to make. There's no way, right? Like that can't be right.
The only argument would be that, I don't know how many people they had to sign. Like there's so many different soccer leagues. I'm not sure how many soccer leagues are in it.
Right.
But I mean, still, that is an astronomical price if that's the case.
Yeah.
And like, going back to the name thing and the breaker thing, if again, I was buying into some wrestling breaks, I didn't really care. Like it didn't make me not buy into them because I couldn't say Asuka, Asuka was how most of them said it. Like it's spelled that way. That's how you would think. So like,
and you as the viewer, you as the viewer and buyer, the name. So what's it matter if the breaker does it? Like what does that have to do with you?
I kind of feel like anybody who's buying into the Leaf Metal Soccer break probably knows the names of a lot of the guys. Like I don't buy they didn't do their homework. Why are they buying into the break if they don't know the value or haven't done their homework? Like,
and maybe soccer is not as popular as some people want to think it is. There's a group of people who think soccer is the next thing and it's going to just, rise. But then no one really cares about soccer in America. So,
and honestly, it's really got to be difficult for a company like Leaf that doesn't have a license for any of the major soccer federations. Like this was another individually licensed product. Maybe the problem was you did an individually licensed product of a sport that isn't necessarily huge. Maybe people don't like, EP, you and I have both bought the Leaf football and we've opened it up and been like, why did we buy this stuff? So,
I did too. I bought a box of it.
Yeah. So like, I would have to imagine a lot of the soccer fans are probably the same way. Like a lot of it just comes down to these are not licensed by any major federation. They don't have the big name people in them, so it's not going to sell. So maybe putting a price point out there that's like $400 and some wasn't like for an unlicensed product. Like that might be a bigger issue than the consumer not knowing the value. Mm-hmm. Maybe the consumer does know the value. Maybe the consumer
maybe Brian Gray doesn't know the value.
Yeah, that none of these cards are licensed. All these guys are young that may or may not turn out to be anything. Maybe I don't feel like spending $400 on it.
There's so many soccer players, so many. In so many countries, so many that will never make it to their, the main club or make it to play in a World Cup or anything like that. So I mean, yeah. So it's. Yeah,
and do I trust Brian Gray to know who the great young players who are going to ascend are? I don't think I do.
Well, hopefully he's not making those decisions on his own.
I don't know. He's tweeting on his own, so maybe he is.
The way he's reacting to it, you kind of feel like maybe this is his baby.
Maybe
very personal to him. It seems
did seem like a very personal defensive response to the situation.
This is the second time in how many weeks that Brian Gray got very defensive about soccer related content, right? I mean, between that and the Pele stuff, I mean, he's been pretty fired up.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. I don't know. Maybe things aren't going as well for Leaf as he likes to make people think. I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Me especially, I'm a big fan of CSG grading. Just wanted to give any listeners, any watchers out there a little bit of a heads up that for the month of October, CSG is offering 20% off all of their grading. Really good deal. Again, if you haven't used it before, this is a great chance to send a couple cards in. The bulk rate is back to $12 for the month of October. I think the regular rate is $20 a card. 25 now. So it used to be 50 cards. And now it's only 25. So, it's a great time if anybody has cards they've been thinking about trying out with CSG. Be a great time to do it. Like, again, $12 a card. You can't beat that. So.
I have some Kenny Pickett's I'm looking to send. I'm just saying. I'm sending them somewhere, baby.
Well, unfortunately, you're back on the PSA bandwagon, so we know what's going to happen there. Mr. PSA Joe Day right there.
Whatever. Yeah. I should have put that in my Joe PSA Day on my little name tag there.
All right, to wrap things up this week, have one little topic here. We talked earlier about Spider-Man not being able to tear his ACL, but apparently it doesn't matter. Did you see the Precious Metal Gems set from 2017 Ultra that recently sold? It originally sold in February of this year for $205,000, and it just sold recently for $10,000.
So I did see that. I will say someone, and I can't take credit for this at all, but someone on Twitter responded to the initial tweet and was like, well, some of the grades are a little different. So, some of the bigger name, like I think the Hulk is a 7 in this set.
There's nothing in there though that makes up.
Right. I mean, that's $190,000 difference or so. So that's, again, people invest in these things. Like, PMGs are cool. I love Marvel cards. I'm hoping, in a month and a half or so to have a couple of Fleer Ultra Avengers boxes to rip for the channel. I love, but if it's so risky to hold comic book cards. I don't know. It's just, I can't get behind it. I really like the Doctor Strange PMGs. I would never I'll lay out $2,000 for a Tom Brady rookie. I would never lay out $2,000 for a PMG of Doctor Strange. It seems like bad investment to me, but a lot of people love it, but those people are not willing or maybe not able to spend the money that they need to on these things. And you see it reflecting in a lot of the prices recently. This one, the biggest one, the most glaring one, but it's been across the board. I was lucky to sell the 90 MU PSA 10s when I did, because, I think that product has also taken quite a hit too.
It's another lesson, a very, 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 very expensive lesson in the hobby market, and how there are going to be huge, huge peaks and valleys in the prices. Maybe we'll never see another peak as big as the one that we had during COVID, and people had extra money and all that sort of stuff like that. There's like a perfect storm that drove all the prices to crazy, crazy heights. And the sports stuff is going to hold its value a little bit more because it's more established, and I think the comic stuff is, I love it. Like, it's very cool. Like, there's definitely some cards I want to get, and sometime maybe I'll get a PMG, but I would never pay the prices that were out there in 2019, 20, and 21. It was just astronomical.
Well, I did not plan this as a gotcha moment, EP, but it just so happens that it worked out that way. The Michael Jordan PSA 10 86 Fleer rookie card that sold the end of last year, I believe, that peaked at like $800,000, recently sold for $180,000. So this is not, exclusive to Marvel cards, non-sports. Like, there's a huge market correction going on. Like, I think we all agree. We've talked about this since we got back into the hobby about the bubble, and it's not going to last that way.
We were like, let's move some of this stuff before that bubble eventually bursts. I
think it was even more perfect storm though for the Jordan because of the Last Dance. And there was just much extra hype there that just like that exploded for sure.
Just a lesson to be learned by people. Like, don't buy during the hype phase. Like, don't feel
it's
like
the Jalen Hurts thing we just
going
talked
up
about.
like crazy. Yeah, I have to get it now because it's just going to keep going to the moon. No, things go up and then they come down. Like when the hype wears off, they come back down. Like $180,000. Don't get me wrong, a lot of money for that card, but say you're somebody who had a PSA 10 Michael Jordan that you've had for 5 years. If you didn't sell that when it got up to 800,000, you don't know what you're doing. Like, why do you have the card? You could have sold it for 800,000 and then bought another one
6
for
of them
200,000 and you made $600,000 profit. Like,
it's never going to make it to the moon. It's never going to make it to the moon. Likely in 6 months, you're going to be able to buy it for less than it's worth right now.
Yeah,
right.
Like that's during the hype phase. That's
I gotta say. I mean, we've talked about this with the Wrestling All-Stars cards, right?
All the time.
There are people who have so many. There are a couple of people on hobby Twitter who have so many Hogans and Andres, and they are worth a ton of money right now. They can sell them for way, 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 way more than they paid for them. And they're holding on to them. What do you expect to happen? How much further do they have to go up? Now, if you're a bajillionaire and don't care and just like these nice pieces of cardboard with men's faces on them, cool. But if you're an investor and you haven't moved on from some of these products, you're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. And the other point I will make is same thing with the Marvel PMGs. If you didn't sell them at the high, what are you doing? Like, what do you expect to happen? Mike, you said this to me from the jump when I started going through my collection and I was like, ooh, I have this card listed for $30. Someone offered me $20. What should I do? And Mike said, it's like someone just walked up to you on the street and handed you a $20 bill. I mean, what do you expect that card to do? I sold a card for $80, an Emmitt Smith Topps Chrome insert refractor. It's probably a $20 card right now. Like, you got to be smart about what you're doing and moving some of these cards. And lastly, I will say, I'm going to pat us on the back because we talked about this a little bit with the Jordan. Do you think the star rookie has something to do with this? I mean, the star cards coming out, being graded by PSA, I know you don't consider it a true rookie, Pete, but still.
Yeah, I was just going to call you out, but no, it's fine. XRC.
But I mean, it's fine, but it's still a rookie, XRC or not. The R stands for rookie. You know that, right, EP? So
right.
I mean,
like fake rookies, what XRC stands for.
Yeah, that's fine.
X stands for fake. Yeah,
the X stands for fake, right? But still, the point is there that those cards are now being graded. You have to think that is going to push back the market a little bit on the Fleer, right? Like,
definitely.
You can't tell me it doesn't have something to do with it.
Yeah. Aren't those Wrestling All-Star cards? They're XRCs too. Or they're going to get those in sets, I think, right?
thinking they were complete
sets.
Yeah, those are XRCs as well. But don't tell certain people that, they will lose their shit.
But like with those in particular, like how far do you expect them to go up? Like if you look at the market value of them, like from 5 years ago to now, like they've gone up astronomically. Like I would, if I had them personally, seeing Michael Jordan cards drop, seeing a lot of the high end stuff, non-vintage drop, like I would be a little concerned about, losing money on it. Like, I mean, again, too, it's a lot of it's when people got into it. So, if you got into it at a super low price, even if it comes down, but like maybe you just want to have them. I don't know.
But there are some people that have 10 or 15 Hogans or 10 or 15 Andres. It's like, is 5 not enough? Make a ton of money with those 10 and maybe just keep your 5 favorite. I to me, it's absolute silliness. It's absolute silliness.
See, I think the thing is, a lot of collectors don't think of it in those terms. They just want more of this thing, and they want to hold on to this thing. They aren't thinking the way that we're talking about. Like they just that's not even like in the back of their brain. Like they don't even want to sell it. I mean, I realize it's a bad call. I
consider myself a good collector. I consider myself an actual collector. If Brady goes out and wins an 8 Super Bowl, you think the shelf right next to me right here is going to have any Brady rookies on it? No, because guess what? I'll buy them back.
Right, but I think a lot of collectors don't think in those terms. They think this is my collection. True collectors
can be smart,
and I don't. Well, no, I'm saying
true collectors
you're
are
smart about
smart
it,
too.
Right? I know. I'm not saying that's not smart. I'm just saying that there are some people who this is their life. This is what they do, and this is all they care about, and they don't want to sell them because it's who they are.
And especially wrestling collectors, though, like wrestling collectors more so than any other sport are very possessive of their collections. Like, and they are like whether
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just rolling my eyes at it.
Like there's like we talk about a lot in the wrestling card industry, like because when rare cards come up, you really have to go after them and buy them, because a lot of the collectors, they get them in their collection and they never leave.
Don't get rid of
them. It is a little bit different than somebody collects basketball and stuff. I'd say like wrestling in particular, they really like to keep their collections, and regardless of how the value goes, they like to have them. Like I don't know, I might sell my Paul Heyman cards if they triple in value, but
okay. I was literally going
look
to
on your face says no. The look on your face says no. It's not gonna
happen. No. Mike's smart enough.
That's why I buy extras.
Right. That's the thing, right? If you have 5 gold Paul Heymans and all of a sudden Paul Heyman is running the WWE and something happens that his cards quadruple or whatever in value, I have a hard time believing you don't sell 4 out of those 5. And then say in a year or two when they come down, maybe in 6 months, you'll just buy them back. I have a hard time believing that you can't be a collector and also not be stupid. Like you have to see how the market works, right? Whatever.
All right. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap it up. That was pretty good talk this week. I think we had some pretty good. I could have
breakfast
let
beer, baby. It's the breakfast
go
beer.
Back and forth there forever. That was fun to watch. I wanted to talk, but I'm like, I'm letting them go. This is too many. All right, guys. Good chat, and we will be back next week. Take care, everybody.
Fingers crossed. See you, boys.
Yeah.